Hi, everyone. Good morning on this beautiful Saturday. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to be getting started here in about 5 more minutes. We're waiting for everyone to come on board. While we're doing that, though, why don't you comment in the chat where you're watching from? And for those of you who might be watching from YouTube or Facebook, if you go to streamlineartevents.com/party, that is where you're going to want to watch from. We have some giveaways that we are doing today, and those names get pulled from that chat. So streamlineartevents.com/party is where you want to be. And while we're talking about giveaways, why don't we give some away? So comment in the chat where you are watching from. And the first one I want to give away today is Bill Schneider's Pastel Painting Secrets video. This is a great video. I love Bill. And this video is going to go to Deb from North Palm Beach. Deb from North Palm Beach, congratulations. You are now the proud owner of Schneider's video. North Palm Beach. And I don't have an assistant today, so I'm doing this myself. If I call your name, please select or please type in the chat, I'm here. And then I want you to send me an email, and I'm going to pop that up on the screen in just a second as soon as I find it. You are going to put that, I'm here in the chat if I call your name, and then send me an email at winner@streamlinepublishing.com. And let's see, our second video that I have that I want to give away today is Pastel Fundamentals by Brenda Boylan. This is a great video for pastel beginners. And this video is going to go to Bambi Tidwell from Dallas. Bambi Tidwell, from Dallas. Sorry, I'm making notes as I do this. You are getting Brenda Boylan's video. Make sure you send me an email at winner@streamlinepublishing.com. Okay, so housekeeping, if you experience any technical issues, please refresh your browser. That's going to fix most issues. And if you have some serious connection problems, you are going to get a replay of this. So we will be back here in just a few minutes. So sit tight, okay? Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. If you are just coming on board, we are here at Pastel Party, and I thank you so much for joining us on a Saturday. If you are watching on YouTube or Facebook, please click over to streamlineartevents.com/party. We have some giveaways that we're going to do today, and you can only get those if you're present in the chat on that page. So head over to streamlineartevents.com/party if you want to be eligible for some prizes. We've got a great show for you today, something I'm really excited about. If you have any technical issues, please refresh your browsers. That'll fix most issues, but you will also get a replay later today. So welcome. Thank you so much for coming to Pastel Party. And it's not a party without gifts. So why don't we give away some more things? Because I like to give away things. The first thing I'm going to give away is Jill Stephanie Wagner's Pastel Painting from Photos video. This is a great video. I love that sunset and the reflection on the water. So this video is going to go to, let's see who's in the chat. We are going to go with Danielle McKenzie. Danielle, you are the proud owner of Pastel Painting from Photos by Jill Stephanie Wagner. If I call your name, please type I'm here in the chat and send me an email at winner@streamlinepublishing.com. That way I can get you access to your video. So Danielle McKenzie, make sure you send me an email. Next up is Aaron Scher's new video, Winter Sunset in Pastel. And one thing I've come to find is white is never white. Snow is never white. So this is a great opportunity for you to learn how to paint snow in pastel using other colors. So this video is going to go to, let's see, this one is going to go, you guys are typing in there. Nancy Jeanette Long from Georgia. Nancy Jeanette Long, you are the winner of Aaron Scher's Winter Sunset in Pastel video. If you would please make sure that you comment "I'm here" in the chat and send me an email at winner@streamlinepublishing.com so I can send you your video. All right, I'm excited for today. I hand selected these videos for you guys, so I'm super excited about it. Make sure that you guys stay active in the chat, though, throughout the event. We have some more giveaways at the end of today, so I want to make sure that you guys are there for those. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Kari Stober. I've been with Streamline for about 12 years now, and my most recent role, I do a lot of roles, but my most recent hat is Community Ambassador for Pastel Today, our weekly newsletter all about pastel. I love the medium. I love pastel. I love color. And so I've been painting for about 10 years. And the last 2, I've gotten really into just learning more about pastel. And I feel like a lot of times pastel gets a little less recognition than the other mediums. So I wanted to use the resources at my disposal to help spread the word about pastel and do anything I could to highlight things going on in the pastel community. And I do that through the community news section of Pastel Today. Kelly Kane is our editor, and she does a great job with the articles in Pastel Today. And then I kind of supplement that by adding in, shows that are going on, discounts Dakota's doing, whatever, just anything that might be going on in the pastel world. We are always looking for more perspectives and content for our newsletter. So if you are interested in submitting anything for our newsletter, email Kelly. Her email's there on the screen. She would love to, hear your ideas and help you guys flesh those out and add some new perspectives to our newsletter. So, and I'm really excited about it. I just love pastel, and that's my whole goal with pastel, is just to get it out to the world. Okay, so why are we here today? Pastel Live is our online conference coming up in September, and it's such a great opportunity. And we wanted to give you guys a sampling of what you can expect during Pastel Live. So I handpicked a couple of painting lessons for you today. You can either paint along, or you can just watch and take notes and then paint along later, which is what I'll be doing. And like I said, if you aren't able to make the broadcast or you can't paint along, you are going to get a replay. So you'll see that later today. And I'm going to share more about Pastel Live later. I have a special discount for you guys since you're joining me on a Saturday. But right now, we are going to get to our first demo, which is by UK artist Michele Ashby. And just a reminder that these were recorded at a previous Pastel Live event. So the artist is not here today to answer questions. But if you do attend Pastel Live, the artists are there during their demos to answer questions for you. So it's super helpful. So without further ado, let's watch our first demo with Michele Ashby.
Hi there, my name is Michele Ashby. Firstly, I'd like to thank Pastel Live for asking me to showcase my work through this amazing event. Today, I am inviting you into my studio, and I'd like to welcome you to this workshop where I will demonstrate how I use pastels, sharing with you some of the techniques I apply while drawing with pastels. I will show you how to use light and shade to add realism to a number of basic shapes. I will show you how to apply various shadows to emphasise that 3D look, as well as showing how I use pastel pencils in general. I will also show you some blending techniques for a smoother looking gradation. I will be covering all of this in my demo, and you'll be able to watch over my shoulder as I do so to see how I do things. I'll be doing a still life from my Little Moments Big Memories series onto a lightly sanded pastel card using a photo reference as a guide. I'll be using pastel pencils for this demo. I hope you enjoy watching. As I start, I'm using a black Faber-Castell to kind of basically draw over the Faber-Castell 270, which is the light grey colour that I tend to favour to draw everything out. So I'm using the black to kind of deaden down those lines so that they're knocked back a bit, because I don't really want them coming through unless that colour is actually shown in the still life itself. So I'm going round and round the edges, just getting rid of those marks, basically. That's what I'm doing. I use Clairefontaine Pastel Matte anthracite colour, anthracite tone. That's my favoured surface to work on. It's slightly sanded but not too sanded, so you know it will hold quite a few layers of pastel pencil and pastel sticks, but it's not too gritty. I don't really like working on the very gritty surface, and I don't need to, given the style of work that I like to produce. So here I am going around the edges of the blade to create that nice sharp strong dark edge where one blade meets another, and I shall continue to work around until the shape is formed and I can start using different weights of colour to create this lovely heavy scissor, some scissors that I was actually given these to draw by a lady who works in Savile Row, and I wanted to create this. They're heavy, very very heavy. They've seen many a years of dressmaking as a tailor, and I wanted to recreate that with that beautiful shine and the strong darks in there around these lovely ellipses. There's so many beautiful shapes within this still life. You've got sharp edges, you've got curves, you've got ellipses, you've got circles at all sorts of angles, you've got a triangle. So it's a very designery kind of setup with still life. And this is part of my Little Memories, Big Moments series of still lifes, which are showcasing some of the carefully chosen items from my late mum's sewing box as a way to help with the grieving process, but also as a way to keep her memory alive. She was a very keen sewer, and made all mine and my sister's clothes as we were growing up, either knitted them or sewed them. And those various items that I still have that were hers, and the sewing box was always around. The Singer sewing machine was nearly always up on the dining table, ready to make something or mend something as necessary. So here I am shading this little area here. I use different techniques and different ways of holding my pencil to create light to dark, so you can have a play around yourself when using pastel pencils. You can go from a really dense strong colour to an extremely light colour, and as you can see here, I'm just using one pencil, this Faber-Castell pencil. I don't always use Faber-Castell. I use whatever's around and the colour that I need. So I'll dip into using Caran d'Ache, to Derwent, to Stabilo, the Carbothello. So it just really does depend on the colour that I'm looking for. But for now, I'm using this. I don't know why I chose such a small, short, stubby pencil, to be honest, because I could have I've got so many of them. I could have chosen a long one, but here I am working away with this short, stubby Faber-Castell pencil, and I'm just tipping in a bit of shadow here. When I use when I work with pastel matte, this particular colour, I like to make the colour work for me. So I use the colour that I'm working on, which is obviously very dark, and I'll go from the shadow that I'm producing now and use the pastel matte colour. So I'm just rubbing out using a putty rubber. I use the pastel matte colour as another colour basically. When I put the background colour in, I'm going to be using a light grey, so I'll use the light grey of the pastel pencil and the background, and then this very dark. So I feel like I do use it in a way that adds another colour for me. So I'm drawing right up to the edge of the item that I want to produce, and then I'll feather the edges of the shadow, but I don't have to worry about that now. You can also use a blending stick to rub out or to blend. I'll show you more about that later. They're quite handy for just taking those marks away that you don't really want there. I also use my finger to blend. My little finger is very handy. It just seems to get into all those nooks and crannies. Oh, where am I going now? Right, so rubbing out again using a blender, and this little nut here, this little screw, I think it is, yeah, it's a screw, it's got so much detail on it. I love it. So it goes from very dark, lots of gradation in those greys, in those tones of dark, but then it's got that seriously strong highlight in the foreground there. So I should probably put that bit in last, but also there's quite a lot of colour in there. We'll come back to that later. As my style is photorealistic, I would call it photorealistic, pay really strong attention to your reference photograph. I mean, obviously you can adapt it as you feel fit, but if you want to create that realistic look, then really pay attention to all the little nuances of colour and tone that are going to be showing up through this metal. You'll see in a minute that I won't just use the black. I know that obviously they are black, primarily black scissors, but yeah, if you look closely you can pick up on various other colours that can be added to really give them that lift. I'm blocking in this black here, and then I'll go over with a grey to create that look that the black has been peeled away slightly through, like I say, general wear and tear and many years of use. Here we are. So this is a grey. Again, it's a Faber-Castell Pitt pastel pencil, and it's a good mid-tone. This will be the colour that I'll be using in the background too. When I'm sharpening my pencils, I use a scalpel and a 10A blade. I've found that works best for me. I've been through umpteen pencil sharpeners and they just don't work for me. They work for a short amount of time and then they just seem to give up, and you know, you lose a lot of pencil by sharpening anyway. Whereas with a scalpel and a scalpel blade, you just use the scalpel to get rid of any of the wood on the pencil itself, and then I use the 10A blade just quite quite loosely really to create some sort of a point, but not a really sharp point. I use a sanding block for that, and I've found that as I'm left-handed and my husband's right-handed, we can interchange the blades so it kind of gives them a double length lease of life, to be honest, which is very handy. That was purely by chance we found that out. It's the bane of my life, sharpening pastel pencils. It takes up quite a lot of time, but I found that the 10A blade combination with the sanding block really does work. The sanding block does a lot of the work for you, really. So the scissors are coming together now. I've got quite a lot of it done in a short amount of time. As you can probably tell, this video is definitely speeded up a little bit because it is quite a lengthy process. So it's just speeded up enough. You can still see exactly what's going on. Experiment by using the pastel pencils in different ways. You can lay them flatter or have them more pointy. Don't just use them like a very tight to the point or to the nib pencil. You know, experiment by holding it further away in your hand, so you don't even lean on the board. Just use it more like a paintbrush. There's various ways that you can use it, and it will create a different finish each time. So I'm just building up this area here, just adding some little bit of texture really to this surface. And here we go, back into that nut to add some depth and to create that 3D domed look. So pushing the grey towards the black. And there we are. I'll use my blender. There's a couple of little highlights. This is I tend to use the Carbothello Stabilo, and which is one brand, and the Caran d'Ache as my sort of highlight, strong colour go-to pastel pencils. They seem to have a stronger colour, and the pigment seems to be a bit stronger, so I tend to use those you know, as like my details really. Like here, I want that really white because it's metal, shining, the light is shining right on that metal, so I want to keep that perfectly white. There's a little bit of reflected light there from the screw onto the actual blade. These details are so important if you want to create a photorealistic look. Like I say, look extremely carefully at what you want to produce and how you're going to produce it, what's going to enhance what you're doing. These tiny little nuances of colour are reflected light from the cotton reel or the bobbin reel. So they need to be added in. This little pop of colour here. I'm going to build up that little triangular shape. It's got some pinks, it's got some oranges, and there's another little bit that's much closer. Here we are, this bit here, much closer to the cotton reel itself. There's a few colours that are going to be going in there. I'm going to create that nice shine. So you can use quite a few layers with pastel mat. Like I said, there's probably about, I don't know, 4 or 5 layers that have gone on there already. so it's not like it's just one colour and that's it, you're done. You could, and I do have a light touch as well, to be fair. I enjoy a limited palette. I'm using my pencil here, my pastel pencil, along the same direction that the blade goes. I don't really have a rhyme or reason to why I work, to how I work rather. I don't necessarily work dark to light, light to dark. I sort of start in the middle and work outwards in both directions sometimes. Other times, like you've seen here, I've worked the outline of the scissor and sort of filled in accordingly, but I don't always work like that either. It just depends how I'm feeling, depends on what I'm drawing, just depends. So just find your own way, do your own thing, it's up to you. I like these little touches of pink. I think they just really do add something. And I can see a little bit of blue down here in these highlights, so I think again that's going to add a bit of depth on these blades, or on these scissors themselves, on the handles. And here's the strong white going in to create that lovely highlight. And there's a sharp curve going around there, sharp edge to that curve, which I think is really important. What I love about pastel pencils is that you can create so much just with one pencil and a piece of paper, or a piece of pastel paper anyway, and then you can just, off you go, you're ready to go. Okay, so that's the main part of the scissors drawn. I'm now just tipping in this little tiny blade edge, and here I'm using a Carbothello black. That's just about it for that. There's not much going on there. I often use a marl stick. A marl stick is very handy to keep your work nice and clean. So as you can see, I'm working with my hand way out of the way so that you as the viewer can see what I'm up to. I'm just rubbing out some of those lines. So I'm working over the top, which I don't normally do. I work as you would normally hold a pencil, and because of this I will normally have a marl stick over my work, so I keep it nice and clean. I don't always have it taped down like this. Sometimes I'll because of drawing certain shapes, I might find it easier to turn my work around to a 180 degree. Again, it just depends on what I'm doing, but I'm loving these still lives. I've done quite a lot of them so far, and they seem to have conjured up all sorts of lovely memories for people of their relatives, either generally a woman, but not having to be, grandma or mum who's taught them to sew, or to make various things, and it's lovely. It's been a real delight to have people message me and tell me how much they've enjoyed this series so far. So I'm looking forward to doing more. I can't see an end to it at the moment because I'm having way too much fun. This particular piece is 10 by 10. I've done quite a few 10 by 10s, and I've also produced a few 6 by 6s as well. That's inches, by the way. I like a square. So just pushing that away. I blended with my middle finger there because my middle finger's larger. It just smooths everything down a little bit nicer and kind of pushes it away because it's not right in front of you. It's actually going off into the distance. So I want to create that slight soft edge feel. We all know about soft edges and how important they are. I'm just tipping in a bit of the shadow here. And as you can see, I'm using my pencil in a much more loose way. So more like you would a paintbrush. Again, a little bit of blending. What you need to remember with pastels as well is that nothing's set in stone. You can move it all around. I'm using this blue here to just add some tiny details that I can see, which will really make those blades a lot more interesting. Just add a little bit of depth rather than being just with the black colour. That might be a bit bright. I can tip that back later. There's some lovely marks on the blade, so I'm just putting those in just with some, literally some really light touches. Moving on to the cotton reel, so I'm starting with the top here, and as you can see in my setup I have placed the cotton reel so that the grain of the wood, which is what the cotton reel is made from, is going at an interesting angle rather than it just being flat on from, you know, horizontally. It's more of a kind of a 45-degree angle. It just adds more interest. It gives a little bit of movement to the piece too. So you want to recreate that by building up your layer of colour. I'm using, again, like I say, a kind of a mid-tone of pink, and I shall build that up with various pinks and oranges. But I won't literally go over every single bit every single time. I'll try to create that grainy wooded texture by adding more and more colour. But first of all, I'm just going to do this indentation. So using a very, I think that's dark purple that I'm using there, a Carbothello dark purple, maybe a black. Not sure. Yeah, so this is where it would go onto the machine. So you need to make sure that it is actually a hole that looks like it's going right the way through the cotton reel. I'm adding some colour to just pick up those little tiny highlights around that edge there, and then as you can see there's some of the same colour just in there. So, and then I'm adding that colour to the background as my second layer of colour to recreate this grainy look of the wood. This is a De La Rowney pastel pencil. Unfortunately they don't make them anymore. They were a great pencil, and I still have quite a few left, so I'm going to keep using them until they are literally non-existent. Sorry, didn't know what I was going to say then. Yeah, they really were a good pencil, but for some reason they've just stopped making them. This is the trouble. But there's lots of a similar colour around, so even when they're gone, I'm sure I'll be able to use something that will work just as well. If not, I'll combine a couple of colours. So that's another layer on. So I'm going slightly lighter now, as you can see, and here we can really start to see how that grain is coming together. Vary the width of the strokes as well. That would help. Vary how much you press with the pencil too. That will help. That will also create a different look really each time. So you don't, the grain of wood is, you know, it's made up of all sorts of little tiny nuances, so you want to recreate that by adjusting the pressure that you put to your pencil. I think the reason that I've enjoyed doing these still lives of all these little items is because I was a graphic designer all my life, up until about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more. I had my own graphic design business and was a graphic designer all my life, so I thoroughly enjoy the basic shapes that make up a good design. So I'm just adding a very dark colour here to start with the area that's away from the light, so that's going to be the darkest. So that's going to be the shadowy part of the rim of the cotton reel, and there's a little edge to it there that needs a darker colour. If you put the black in now, it can be softened by the colours that you put on top, so don't be afraid to go in with a heavy colour. It can, as I said, you know, vary the weights of how you use your pastel pencils, and you'll get a different texture each time, different strength of colour too. Also, if you're trying to produce a certain shape, it's always better to draw or to use your pastel pencil in the direction of that shape. So here I'm not going up and down, because that wouldn't make any sense with the shape of the item that I'm trying to produce. And as you can see, I've partly covered that black area around the rim of the top of the cotton reel, and that just takes that glaring edge away. You don't want it black, you want it just with a slight depth of colour to it. So following that shape around, I'm using this colour as the sort of a mid-tone. It's not going to end up that colour, but it's a good start point, so sort of block in with that colour. Back in with the red, and as you may remember, we used the red on the top, and then put some sort of peachy, orangey, pinky colours on top, so it knocks this back. But if by using the red in here now, it has a lovely strength of colour. Just blending it slightly to soften those edges. Just putting in the highlight here. As you can see, the highlight obviously wouldn't be white, it would be a lighter version of the colours that are around that area. So in this particular case, it's a very warm pink. Okay, that looks like the top is just about done. Even though this is a blue that I'm using here, because I'm using it in such a light way, and it's a Caran d'Ache, it allows to add some more grain in the top there, just giving it that woody feel. So as I did on the top, I'm now putting in an area of dark to create that shadowing, which is the part of the cotton reel that's further away from the light source. So in this particular piece, as with most of the still lifes that I've done actually within this series, I used a single light source, and I used it quite low and quite close to the actual object, so you get those nice strong highlights and good strong shadows that the objects are actually casting themselves. When I'm working, I use a daylight lamp. I found that really helpful to keep an even light when I'm working. It's something that I would definitely recommend investing in if you've got money to do it. So that's really coming together now. As you can see, there's quite a few colours. Plus the fact, can you see there where the reds and the oranges have gone on top of that black? They've created their own unique shadow, like a purpley sort of colour, which is great. That's exactly what I wanted to produce. And this area here is towards the light source, so it's a little bit lighter and brighter. I'm just putting in a dark area here, which is the, if you like, the area under the lip of the cotton reel. That would be pretty dark under there. So just popping that in there before I start on the thread. If you look at the thread, there's quite a lot going on there, and although it's, again, it's a sort of a very, very dark browny black colour, I'm starting off with the black for the shadows here, and I'm going to be very careful how I move that across the cotton reel towards the light areas. I want to ensure that I pick up on the pattern that the threads of the cotton are wound, and how they're wound around the base of the cotton reel itself. So yeah, at the moment I'm just putting in the shadow area. And here I'm using again a Caran d'Ache black for its strength. I think in a pastel pencil, the Caran d'Ache black is probably the darkest you're going to get. Drawing ellipses is notoriously difficult, so I would recommend that if you know that you've got one half of it right, one half of the circular shape, if you like, flip your paper up the other way 180 degrees and do it that way, because you tend to find that it's much easier to do, say for instance I'm left-handed, so it's much easier for me to do a right hand curve than it is a left. So if I do the right hand curve, then flip my paper, I'm doing a right hand curve again to the other side. So that tends to work for me anyway. Give that a go. So I'm making sure that I get these dark areas in to really nail this three-dimensional shape. It's to get the cotton working as if, or looking like it's moving around the cotton reel itself, is very difficult. So take your time here and really concentrate on the areas that are closer to the light source, and the areas that are further away from the light source, and everything in between. To be honest, it's very difficult, so just take your time doing something like this. The strands of cotton are all interwoven as well. They're all wound round each other, so some go over, some go under, depending on how it's wound around the cotton reel itself. So it's not very straightforward like a normal cotton reel, like a Silco cotton reel, which I have done quite a few of now. They just go round they just get wound from top to bottom. But this particular bobbin style cotton reel goes over and under and over and under for some strange reason. So I'm just putting in those loose strands of cotton there at the bottom, then going to try and blend them towards the actual reel itself. but they stand slightly proud of the cotton reel as they've unwound slightly. I do enjoy these little details, I have to be honest. They had a little bit of drama. So I'm being careful to echo the way that the cotton would go round the reel itself. There isn't a straight line, so you've got to be mindful that there are curves and curves and curves. Getting somewhere now. I could have picked something a bit easier really, but hey, where's the challenge in that? So as you can see, I haven't actually used any brown yet, although like I said, I think this cotton is quite a browny black. It's like a sable kind of colour. At the moment I'm literally just using the black to create the shadowing areas, and allowing the paper to do quite a lot of the work. The pastel mat is, as I said, it's a great product. I love it for me. I'll just put a little bit of brown in here, but I'm literally just tipping it in, as you can see, just kind of adding a covering of it rather than being that specific. I'm just dropping it in there, here, there and everywhere. And now I use a mid-tone grey. I think it's 273. It's a Faber-Castell 273. This is what I'll use for the background. I think it's a great colour, great tone. I love it. I've used it loads. So I use that as a way of showing the highlights of the thread. Now I'm trying to create those threads themselves, so trying to show some individual lines really. Coming together now. I'm trying to be very careful not to lean on my work. I'm leaning actually on the masking taped area. Now just flicking in some tiny highlights of the thread themselves, running up towards the back of the cotton reel. I'm going to just push with my finger onto the actual area that I'm working on. That's just to soften it slightly. I don't want that super duper hard edge. Going in with a slightly lighter tone. For those really light lights within the cotton. That's it. I think that will just about do us. Now I'm going to use my marl stick. So this is the dressmaker's chalk. Don't know whether any of you are aware of this item. It's beautiful. They come in various colours. They come in pink, blue, yellow, and this white. I think that's just about it. For this particular composition, I wanted to use the white one. I thought it would offset the balance of the beautiful orange pinky colour of the cotton reel with the strong black scissors. So what I'm using here is a 270, which is what I drew the actual design out with originally, and I'm just very loosely changing direction, changing weight of how I use this pencil to create a kind of a slightly mottled finish. So again, trying to leave some of the paper tone to do some of the work for me, to be another colour, to be my dark, if you like. So as you can see, I'm just building it up and building it up. I literally just use one pencil for now. Trying to get this, so I'm pushing harder here because again this is where the light source is, so this will be lighter, and there's a couple of grooves around the edge here because it's been used so much, and grooves down this edge here, so add a couple of highlights down here so that it looks quite three-dimensional here, and carry on with pushing this colour around to fill in this shape. So although it's triangular, it's got rounded edges, and it's not a flat piece, so it's a little bit beveled, so I want to create that edge too, that soft edge around the back. It's also got this beautiful indented marking on it, sort of trademark, and a lot of it's worn away, which again adds to it, really adds to the story. It's not all there, it's slightly faded, so but I want to pick up on it. It's part of the element that, or part of the detail that I definitely wanted to draw. So see the different ways that I'm using my pencil to create different mark making, and it's so quick. One pencil, you can do so much with it. I love it. This is my favourite pencil, pastel pencil. I just think it's such a great colour. I've produced quite a lot of mono work, and this is definitely, I'll use a black, and I'll definitely use this colour and a white, and sometimes a grey too, but yeah, this particular tone will do an awful lot for me. There's an area here which is, it looks like there's been a chunk taken out of it, so again I love it, so I'm going to try and do it justice. All these things have got so much history and so many stories tucked away in them. What happened with this? Did it fall off the table, or was it while they were, I don't know, while a beautiful garment was being made? Who knows? So the least I can do is make it as realistic as possible so its story can be told. See, look at all that detail with just one pencil. It's nearly done. This part's nearly done anyway. So going around the edge here, as you can see, there's a circle around the outside, and you need to be very aware of things like the shadowing and the highlight here. So this is the highlight because the light source is coming across from the left, so it will hit it and create a beautiful highlight on that far curve of the circle, and then there'll be a shadow over this side. So for now I'm just going to push with my pastel pencil and create that highlight, and then making sure that I've got a little highlight this side, and underneath that I will add a quite a strong shadow to give it that indentation. There's a small figure in the middle here. You can't really see it too well, so I'm not going to make it up and pretend that I know what's going on there, but I shall just try to replicate what is there. A couple of little curves there actually, and then I'm just going to tip in, blocking that bit because it's all the light grey. Oh, forgot that little bit. And just go over that edge there because that was a little bit too strong. Knocking back those shadowed areas, but keeping them a little bit stronger at the bottom so it gives it that beveled look. There we go. Just filling that in. You can use the pastel pencil itself to almost be your blender. You can just use it to push the pastel dust around, as well as using your fingers and as well as using a blender. So there's a strong highlight just here, which is going to have a shadow just beyond it, and a strong highlight here. As you can see, I'm leaning on the marl stick now. It's a little bit out of view actually, but you can just see it in the corner there. Just add in a couple of little highlights around those shapes, and there we are, it's almost done. Just a few little shadows need to be tipped in there around that curve. This is a dark grey, it isn't a black. Just to give it a warm shadow. And then around the outside of that, highlight. It's just a few tiny shadows around this. I don't know what it is, I don't know whether it's a figure, not really sure. But if you can't see it, then just put in what you think you've seen or what you think you can see, because there's no point really guessing too much. Just like I said, it is an old dressmaker's chalk anyway, so it will have been rubbed away. So I'm just using my finger now to just soften that down slightly. I still want to keep the detail, but and I still want to keep that mild kind of marbly look. There's a few marks across here. I don't know where this blue comes from, but I'm going to put them in because I think again they add a bit of interest. I could have left them off, but I won't. Just add in a lighter blue to take that strength of blue back. And then there's a little bit of blue highlight actually across all this, so just going to put a little bit of that in across the top. Lovely. There, that was quite easy to do, I think, and with virtually one pastel pencil an awful lot went on there. And now there's just a little bit of again a reflective light from the cotton, adds a gorgeous little bit of pink to that white area. Now I'm adding the shadow. This has got a very strong shadow, stronger than the stronger than the scissors, because the scissor blades and the scissor handles, if you look, are actually sort of off the surface, whereas this is actually touching the surface more. It's very close to the surface. That's what I mean. So feathering as you go, and so the light source is from the left, so the shadow is going to be on the right, and it's going to also be round the back there, but it won't be quite so strong here because it's low. Like I said, I've got a low source of light and it's from the left. Same with the cotton reel. Just using the black again there over the top of the colours that I put down on the cotton reel, just to strengthen that area of shades there, as well as sweeping in a shadow for the base of the actual cotton reel itself. So it'll be a thinner shadow at the front, and then it'll be a wider shadow towards the back. Just putting in the blade shadow as well, and making sure that you don't put the shadow right up to the edge of the blade the further away it gets, because they are actually off the surface, they don't touch the surface. If you look at the reference on the very edge of the right hand side, you can see there's a little tiny bit of light. So this part has been speeded up because it's just a little bit dark there, which would be the cotton reel making its own shadow there, and the blade of the scissors. So now I'm going to put in the background. So like I said, I used a Faber-Castell mid-grey, which is a number 273, and if you look closely, this is where you can be quite clever and use your colour in different ways. So press much harder the stronger that you want that colour, which is right up to the left hand side of the objects, because that's where the light source is. And then as you go towards the shadows, you don't press so hard, so you have a much lighter touch. And in doing that, you can use the colour of the pastel mat itself to help you towards the shadow itself. Hope that makes sense. I don't normally work this fast. They've definitely speeded me up. Mind you, it didn't take that long, this piece, so if you're wanting to give this a go, it's probably 2 or 3 hours work. So much lighter touch around here, because that's where you're meeting the shadow. So don't fill up the whole tooth of the pastel mat here, but press much harder where you want it to be solid, like round here. So blend that in first. Blend the area that you want to be nice and bright first, and then take your finger to blend in where the black meets, where the black of the pastel pencil shadow meets the grey. You can be quite vigorous as well. I think this particular paper is pretty sturdy actually, quite forgiving. It's quite light, this area as a shadow. This area is completely solid grey, so you try and keep your pressure even throughout. There aren't any shadows on this bit, and there's no highlights, so it's just a solid area of grey background. Just be mindful to not go over where you've already drawn, so you keep the line of the blade nice and crisp. I think my pastel pencil needs sharpening really, but I've been a bit lazy. There we go, that's that area done. When you go around the top of the cotton reel, that's an area where you want to be careful to keep those edges nice and soft around that curve. So again, I'm not going right up to the edge of that black shadow area. I'm leaving a little space between, and that's where I shall blend to. Yeah, make sure you get your background colour on that left-hand edge of the chalk, because the shadow wouldn't be starting there, it would be starting slightly round. So the background goes down before the strands of cotton, because they're obviously under, the background is underneath, so get that done first, and then as the strands of cotton are darker as well, you can just sit them on top. So I'm just doing this area quite lightly because there is definitely shadowing going on, so look carefully at your shadows to recreate those. Just blending that down, blending it away. That's it. So getting all my fingers involved now, because I want that area just to go from the black of the shadow through to the grey. And now I use a strong black Carbothello pencil, pastel pencil, to draw in these loose strands, and they're in shadow, so they can just be the black, that's fine. So looking very carefully at the direction that these loose strands are going in, and overlapping them onto each other, and sort of feathering them out, just brushing that carefully with a little bit of blending with a light tone. Well, that's it. This still life demo is now complete. I'm calling it Orange Real. I do like a good title as well as a play on words. I'm happy with the results from today's play with pastels. I really hope you've enjoyed watching along. All that's left for me to say is a massive thank you once again to Pastel Live for inviting me to share my process with you all. Bye for now. Happy pasteling.
Wasn't that amazing? I was blown away by that. So I picked these demos because I liked the paintings. I didn't realize she did this entire demo in pastel pencils, and that was stunning. The way the shadowing came together on the scissors, and oh my gosh, that was just so cool to watch. So I know we've had a great chat over here in the website chat. If you guys are watching on YouTube or on Facebook, I recommend that you guys jump over to streamlightartevents.com/party. That is the landing page for this event. We've got a different chat going on there. And at the end, I'm going to try to export it. We've had a lot of great conversations and links, and everybody's sharing stuff. So I'm going to try to export that at the end and share that with everybody. But definitely go over there if you're able to. We also have some giveaways at the end of today, and you have to be in that chat in order to be selected. So check that out. Before we get to Richard's demo, I want to talk a little bit about Pastel Live. It is our 3-day online conference coming up in September, and it's a really great experience. So if you are not familiar with it, I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of information really quick. It's coming up September 18th through 20th, you are going to get to watch demos from 25 top pastel artists. And then like this event, you can either prepare ahead of time, or you can paint along and, or you can take notes and paint along later. Completely up to you. There is an optional Essential Techniques Day on the 17th. This is great for beginners. We have a lot of artists who will go over some pretty basic stuff. And it's also a really great opportunity for people to kind of get refreshed if you haven't been painting in a while before you jump into Pastel Live. I really encourage it. It's a lot of great information. We have a paint along cocktail hour every night where you can sit around and chat on Zoom with people, that have been there through the day, talk about your favorite parts of the day. We all paint along to the same image and share that. We have a private Facebook page that you can join. So we share our paintings after the day, talk about all of, the wonderful things. It's just a nice way to have community during these events. Another way is our optional breakout rooms. We do these 2 or 3 times throughout the day, and you get thrown into a room with people from around the country, around the world, just everybody who loves pastel. So it's a lot of great conversation. And last but not least, there are discounts on art supplies, which is always fun. I mean, who doesn't love art supplies, right? So we have a great world-class faculty. I want to run through those really quick for you. We have Dowd Akriev, Lana Ballett, Harley Brown, Emma Colbert, Lynn Diefenbach, Kim Eshelman, Susan Godbout, Jerry Greenberg, Pamela Hamilton, Albert Handel, Barbara Janicki, Shondell Joyce, Kathleen Kalinowski, Judith Leeds, Robert Lemler, Karen Margulis, Heidi Marshall, Carol Peebles, Alan Picard, William A. Schneider, Gail Sibley, Lisa Skelly, Colette Odia-Smith, Stan Spurlack, and Mary Tippett. And since you guys are spending your Saturday with me, we have a special offer for you. When you buy a ticket to Pastel Live, you are also going to get Essential Techniques Day as a bonus. So you're getting both or all 4 days rather than just 3 days for the price of the main event. So with a general ticket, you are going to get 3 days of Pastel Live, obviously plus Essentials. You get a 7-day replay access for that. For Premier, which is our most popular ticket, you get 60 days of replay access, and VIP will get you 365 days of replay access. So if you went to the website today and signed up for all 4 days, you'd be $594 if you were doing a general ticket. We're doing $397. So this is just for you guys since you're spending your Saturday with me. And we also have some bonuses. If you want to sign up in the next hour, I've got these great bonus videos that I picked out for you guys. Doug Dawson, Liz Haywood Sullivan, Clark Mitchell, Jacob Aguiar, Mike Beeman, Sangeeta Padki. That is another one. This is a hyper realistic still life like Michele Ashby just did, but she does hers in soft pastel. So that's a really interesting one. And then we've got the great Tony Elaine. Everybody loves Tony, and Vera Kavura. If you were in our Vimeo chat over here in the event, we were just talking about Vera because she uses pan pastels in a lot of her floral paintings. So it's really cool. So total bonus value is just over $1,100. And so if you're on the fence, I had a couple of things that I wanted to share. Number one is if it's not within your means to do this, please don't do it. We are not trying to push anyone to do something that they cannot afford. We do not want that. Second, we've been doing this for a very long time, years and years and years, decades. And one of the things that we found is that a mixture of inspiration, instruction, and experiences make for a very well-rounded artistic journey. And we've heard since launching these virtual events that they're a perfect combination of all 3 of those things. And they've really made a difference with artists. And one thing I love about Eric is that he loves artists. He is the owner of Streamline, if you don't know who Eric is. He loves artists. He wants to teach everybody how to paint. And because of that, he has created a 100% money back guarantee for these events. So if on the first day you get there and you're like, this is not what I was expecting, I do not want this, you just let us know and we refund all of your money. We want you to be happy. And it's the same for our art instruction videos. If you watch the entire, 5-hour video and you're like, this was garbage, I didn't learn anything, or you just didn't get what you expected out of it, we're going to refund your money or give you something different because we want you to be happy. We want you to be learning and we want you to be growing. And then the third thing I wanted to share is that, like I said at the beginning, I've been painting with pastels for about 10 years now, and I really didn't improve during most of that time. 2 years ago, the convention, plein air convention, was here in Denver. And so I actually took my pastels with me because I don't usually like to travel with those. And I learned actually a lot of really cool things, especially at the paint outs with the faculty helping. And when I came back home, I was re-inspired and I started painting again using the things that I'd learned. And I was amazed at how quickly I got better. And I was like, who knew that if you actually practice the things you learn, you get better, right? Like, that's not a difficult thing to understand, but I just never did it. And so then I found this workshop that I really wanted to do, and it was very expensive. And I don't know if you're like me, I don't like spending money on myself. I will shell out money on my kids, my husband, for the whole family, but spending money on myself I felt was really selfish. And so I refused to buy the workshop. And then finally my husband did it for me as a gift. And I'm so glad he did, because it was an amazing experience. I learned so much, and it was just such a great opportunity. So if you're kind of like that and you're in that, you're in that same boat, I really encourage you to do it. If you are seriously interested in moving your artwork forward and actually improving, I mean, not that you're actually improving, like everybody can improve, but if you're really serious about your art and want to improve quickly in the next, 6 months, a year, I really encourage you to do something like this. Pastel Live is unique because, normally when you go to one workshop, you get one artist and their techniques, which is great. I had a great experience doing Alan Picard's workshop. But with Pastel Live, you're getting 25 artist techniques, and you're just it's just so much information. It's so cool. So if you're able to do it, I thoroughly encourage you. It's such a great experience. And thank you so much for listening to my little spiel, because I love pastels. You can tell I'm excited. So I'm going to give you guys a few minutes. I'm going to put a link up on the screen. There should be one under the video player. Go there now. This discount is only for you guys. So go sign up, and then we're going to come back in like 5 minutes and get started with Richard's demo. So I'll see you guys soon. I'm back and I'm muted. I hope you guys had a chance to sign up. I hope you guys had a chance maybe to run to the bathroom, grab a drink. We've got another hour coming up with Richard Suckling, who I'm super excited about. He is another artist who uses a lot of bright colors. So I'm really excited about his painting as well. And like I said before, if you guys have any questions about Pastel Live, drop those in the chat. We'll try to answer some questions after Richard's demo. And just a couple of notes real quick. Again, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, go over to streamlineartevents.com/party. We're having a great chat over there. I'm going to try to export it later today, see if that will work. And then that's where we pull our prize winners from. And then also we had a lot of questions, so I just wanted to tell you guys again, Michelle's materials list is below the video player. There should be a link to that there. It was all pastel pencils, and then she was using anthracite pastel matte. So, and then Richard is using Le Carte paper from Sennelier, and he will be using Unison pastels. So without further ado, we are going to get to Richard's video. So
hi,
here we go.
My name is Richard Suckling, and welcome to my studio here in Cornwall. And welcome to Pastel Live 2022. I'm very excited to be part of this event this year. I'm going to do a painting for you today. It's very rainy here today in Cornwall, so I think a bit of sunshine. So we're going to paint a Spanish scene, and I hope you enjoy it and paint along. Thank you. Okay, so what we're going to start. So I'm using a sanded paper. It's a mid to dark tone. I do tend to favour the darker tone papers, either red or a sepia kind of colour like this, and I do like a sanded surface to work on, but mainly because it holds a lot more pastel, and I tend to be quite a heavy applier of pastel, should we say. So I'm kind of a slightly more heavy stroke than some artists. So what I'm going to do first of all is to just get us started, is just to indicate a rough idea of where I want the composition to go. So I'm going to basically just indicate a few marks, nothing too heavy, keep it nice and light. And I'm going to keep the small amount of sky in this particular one. I want to make the best of the rest of the scene, and to indicate just generally, nothing set in stone really at any point until later in the painting. But I want to get kind of a feeling of depth. Now I quite like scenes where there is a pathway into the painting. It's a good way of setting up a strong composition from the start, and it gives you painting some direction. It's easier to read. This is kind of runs in, sweeps it out, so it's quite a nice little tool to use to allow us to describe the scene and to really take you through the scene and allow you to see what's going on. We've got the mountains in the background. This is actually Andalusia, which I visited last year. Fantastic place for painting. I did quite a lot of plein air sketching, and I've done some big painting since I've come back. But it's a nice location, and make some exciting subject matters. There are certain things, when I'm painting, I'm looking for the big shapes first, but don't be too specific. I just want to indicate a few bits and pieces to give me a guide of where I want to go. So I've kind of got that scene in there now, so that's roughed in where I'm basically going, and then I generally reach for darks. Darks first, establish nice, really good darks, and work primarily from light to dark. These kind of Spanish scenes, I tend to find that there's a lot more dark in them than you think. They're bright and sunny. The byproduct of that is some really good darks. And you don't want to shy. If you use too many lights and not enough darks, it's not going to create a strong painting. You're going to end up with something that's a bit kind of flowery looking. You want to maintain some good darks. But when you're using it, and I'm certainly at this stage, keep it light. Keep I like to keep my kind of strokes not too heavy, because this paper I'm using, it doesn't allow for a wet underpainting of any form whatsoever, and it's not something I tend to do. I tend to go straight to pastel anyway. I can put it back later if I need to by using pastel liquefier, but I try not to do that too much, because it does kind of change the surface of the paper a little, and you lose that nice bloom that this particular paper allows the pastel to have on the surface. So as you see, I'm just kind of dotting around, trying to work around the whole picture all at the same time. I don't want to be isolating bits and working on those and then joining up other bits. It's the pictures as a whole, and I work on it in that way. So kind of, yeah. So starting to strengthen areas. I'm using a fairly rich palette of colours. So I've got quite a range of colours here, which is more of a portrait set than a landscape set. But I find that with some of the, if you're drawing Mediterranean subjects, certainly in places like Andalusia, you'll find that if you're taking a set of pastels with you, sometimes a portrait set is just as effective, because you get nice ochres, earthy colours, some good greens, not those kind of bright greens that you tend to find in landscape sets. They're a bit more subtle. So I'm just going into some big shapes, trying to feel some olive trees running across, with the kind of soil in between, and we just going to go for it and get some colour down. So I like to use colour quite boldly. Most of my paintings include a good amount of colour, generally, unless I'm doing deliberately a limited palette. But to use colours brightly, you have to use them with a little control. So you're going to make good use of your neutrals. Your neutrals will help to make your colours sing. If you just go pick every bright colour in the box, they're all going to fight against each other, and that becomes a problem. You need to limit your colours to maximise your colours. So I've got a couple of buildings in the background, which I just indicate roughly roofs at the moment where they are, and the earthy colour. You've got a big tree which kind of right out in the corner there, like so. Now, I painted this scene a couple of times, various sizes. I painted a sketch of it at the time when I was there. But with this scene, the whole secret of making it work for me, I found, is the shadows on the path. So I start to indicate just a few lights, and just to set up a bit of play between the dark and the light, so I can start to get a feel of where stuff's going to go. Now, the pathway is really the brightest part of the painting. It's warmer. It is nearly as light as the sky, but because it's a warm colour, it tends to have more impact. And so we'll start to put that in loosely, and I start to put in some highlights. And when you're drawing a range of trees like this, I would tend to try and join them up, make a big shape out of them, and just put in just enough detail as the painting develops to isolate each individual tree as much as you need to, so that it reads properly. You don't have to put in every single detail. I mean, a lot of artists will slave over doing every detail and produce wonderful work. The way I work tends to be a little bit different to that. My way of working is to basically say as much as I can with the least amount of detail. That's not the least amount of work. That means finding the right elements to put in, which do the work that you need, so that the painting reads properly. If you everything in. Your eyes can kind of, for me, my eyes would run around the painting, and it would be, from my way of looking, a little overcomplicated. By working this way, I am able to isolate certain areas of the painting, and basically the big shapes will naturally break down as much as they need to, but no more. So I'm looking for big shapes, or bigger shapes, that I can slip in, and I do work quite fast. I always try and paint in the studio in a similar way that I would paint when I'm out in the field. Now when I'm out in the field, certainly in the UK, we get a lot of rain, so weather is an element you have to bear in mind. It's not going to play nicely always. Sorry about the noise. The paper's a little bit noisy at this stage when it starts to pick up the initial layers of pastel. Hopefully it'll whiten down a bit then. So as I said, I work quite heavily. I apply the pastel with a bit of weight, which means I have to think as I go about decisions I'm making, because obviously this paper will hold maybe 30 layers of carefully applied pastel. The way I tend to work, I'm probably looking at about 15 tops, I would say, before it becomes more an issue. So I'm probably starting to put in the mountain range in the background, just a general tone, just to push that back. Now, my way of using colour is to, if I use this colour, then I will use it throughout the painting. I think if you use colour, I find if I use colours, certainly in isolation, then the picture can become patchy, and I like some kind of unity. And the way I've always found to do that is to, from the very beginning, continue to pop bits of this colour through the painting. When you're doing that, basically it will help to hold the picture together, certainly from a colour point of view. And so, as you can see, I've kind of just linked a few bits in just to assist with that play of tone, with the play of the colour through the patterning of the colour through the picture. And then there's some other details, so we can start to use some lighter ones just to describe some details in these mountains. I try and paint a lot from plein air. Plein air painting kind of changed the way I look at painting. Previously I'd try and render every detail. But with plein air, that's, for me, not possible. Time is going to play an element, and I found I like the freshness that brought to the painting. So I tried to bring that into my studio work. It took a while to find out how to do that. But basically, I work fast. I work bigger in the studio. I would never work, as a rule, this big outside. I would always work smaller. But when I'm working in the studio, I get to work bigger, and I get to, I don't know, use it in a. So that's kind of lighter. So we're just going to add some in there. Just to set up a tone, because I don't like to do that smudgy thing at the end where you just smudge over the bits where the clips have been. I like to get from the start. So I just put in a layer of that blue, kind of to give us the tone quite nicely, and then again just add bits of it where I feel I can, just to describe little suggestions of things. So I'm kind of at this stage now. I've got some tones down, got an idea of the composition. Now to start to use some of my colour. So other trees are almost silvery. They're amazing to paint. I love to paint them. Those and yeah, a few others, but these particular trees are almond trees, but the other ones I like because you get really dark trunks, which are can be very dramatic in a painting. But olive trees, silvery. They're not one colour, they're a mixture. As with all, but the way they work is, I find you need to do some very dark bits mid, and then some really much lighter than you would think, almost silvery edges to them. Now, what a bit of variety. So a few touches of other greens, which just for a bit of variation. I kind of paint landscapes or seascapes, but I find with landscapes, too much green is not something I particularly enjoy. I prefer scenes where, now this area here, we're going to put it in kind of a cooler, really cooler deep green underneath, which gives a bit of contrast there. And in the back here, yeah, we'll start to deepen our darks. We need some contrast. And the path kind of goes around and it drops away at the edge. So I want to try and suggest bits of that by using some strong darks. Yeah. So I think with my style of painting last year, I just want to get an impression of a scene. I want to be able to allow the viewer to look at it and think, and then bits click. I think you can make it too easy. Used to make it every detail is rounded, and that's a perfectly fine way of working, but it's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in very much an impression, that first glimpse, that first glance, when you see a scene, and then trying to render that as best you can. So I don't shy away from mark making. I'm not going to hide my marks. My first love of pastels is I love the colour, but I like the possibilities of mark making that they present. They really do offer a chance to make some very interesting marks, and I'm not inclined to hide them later in the painting. I'm inclined to leave them there so that they do some, because they're nice on their own. Well, we're making a painting, we're not making a photo, so I want some evidence of me having been there to remain. As the older I get and the more I paint, I think the more evidence I tend to try and leave. So strong contrast is important in pastel painting. Up until a few years ago, it was very difficult to find really good darks, but certain manufacturers have really done well in bringing in some great darks, which we as pastel artists are blessed to have, because they do make our work a lot easier. If you use too many lights, what you end up with is it looks like someone's just thrown a bag of flour or a tap or something over the painting, and it just kind of doesn't work. So don't do too much blending. Do a little bit when necessary. I'm not against it, but I like to leave marks. Especially I like to leave nice marks alone. And even if it's not working perfectly from a visual point of view, if I can kind of incorporate some nice marks into the painting, then I will leave them, because they do help. So we're starting to get some kind of feel, and then some tracks. Maybe drawing these kind of things, trees, tracks, draw them as they grow or as they run. They have a direction, and it gives you a sense of movement, which is nice. And you can see that don't hold back any more than you need to. I'm using quite a fairly limited palette here. I have got a huge collection of pastels, like most professional pastel artists, I've got a lot more pastels than arguably I need, but I like having them. But I think sometimes you have to control yourself a little bit. If you put all the pastels out, as I said earlier, you use too many and everything's fighting against each other to try and dominate. You don't want. Straighten that up a little bit, sorry about that. Red, obviously complementary colour to green, so it's a good foil. I'm strengthening what's actually there, but I'm also working from the photographs. Photographs never truly capture what you see, and you see it is different, and as I'm not averse to making changes. I will make so this tree here, which has got some leaves. It's almost like it was late September kind of time, so the leaves do change. And I'm trying to get a bit of a glow going on. And it's a wonderful location to paint. It has it's nice and warm, dry, great for pastel painting. But the colours just suit pastel painting really nicely, and it's a great place to work. So if you get the opportunity, highly recommend it. So, incorporating some colour around the picture, as I said, over the whole picture all at once. Don't do isolated patches. Try and kind of, and then look for the big marks. So when you're drawing these kind of trees and things like this, you're also looking for the marks between the trees, the negative spaces, because if you use those as much as you can to help you bring shapes out, push things back, bring them forward. Don't just draw the item, but the subject. Try and draw the shapes, and that's the negative and the positive shapes. That way you will find, excuse me, just nipping under here, draw a different pastel. Okay, so I'm going to get a few greens in, so a few little bit of strength of tone, I think, strength of chroma coming in. Starting to bring it together, starting to get some idea of what I want to be doing. I'm kind of using a mixture of. So I like to use bright colours. Love bright colours, bold, saturated colours. But to make those work, you need to make good use of your naturals. Your naturals will help you every time in the supporting actors, I suppose you could call them. You've got your big blousy superstar colours, and then you've got your supporting actors who bring a certain magic to the scene, and to use those, it's important to. Often I'll go to the shop and I've been to an art shop and I say, beautiful colours, why are you not buying those? Why are you buying those kind of boring ones? And it's because those boring ones, sometimes those neutrals are the colours that make the superstar colours really shine. It's without them, it just doesn't work. It's increasing the saturation around this path a bit more because I want to strengthen certain areas of the painting. Keep my marks kind of bold, kind of loose. I want to, so there's little details that you can just put in which just suggest you don't have to say everything. Just say enough, you know. The skill is knowing how much to say. That is the tricky bit, I admit. It's like knowing when to stop. Arguably one of the hardest lessons to learn in any form of painting, but I think especially with pastel painting, is when's it done. And we'll see how successful that is today. But at this stage, just trying to get a nice flow, you know, beginning to work a bit more, build up the marks, so that we've got like a ledgy bit here coming through, and I just want to beginning to see some signs of sense of design coming through now. I like, you know, kind of highlight certain edges. We can bring things forward, push things back. All of these things can be achieved. Sometimes a random use of a random colour will do something quite interesting. It's almost like an underpainting colour, where it's kind of just casting those shadows across. We've got the trees here, we're going to have the area there. I just want to play with that idea. Because the shadows, you need to put those shadows in and make them. They can describe a surface. As the shadow rides over an edge or a shape or whatever, it does things. And that's, whoops, I do apologize there. That's how I want it to be working. So we've got the general block in, a general idea. We need to refine things. We need to refine them enough so that they say what we want to say, but not too much that we take the freshness out of the painting. So we're going to be using some lights, we'll be strengthening darks where they've lost some of their strength. And we'll be describing just edges, tones, and just adjusting things as we go. So constant, the nice thing about pastels is because obviously there's no mixing. You're picking up colours, it's picking up the right colours is our mixing, our combinations. For me, mark making is something that I'm particularly interested in, and something that I do strive for. I like my painting to have a nice feel. I start to get some more detail in this. The mountains, I want a bit more contrast in certain areas, so I can start to. You see, I'm not slaving to the photo. I'm after an impression of a place that I visited and found attractive. So, you know, my style of painting is maybe not as accurate as some, but what I'm interested in is producing a interesting picture at the end. So I like it, people to say, yeah, I like that, it's got, you know, a feel for the place, which is really what I'm about. So somebody's got some trees growing here. I'm going to just put in a mid-tone initially and then strengthen the dark with the detail that I want to put in to describe it further. So I want to start to strengthen these shadows. So shadows do describe it, but they need refining constantly. Mark over mark over mark is what it's about, and that's, as I said to you earlier, I am quite heavy-handed, which is in your learning can be an issue because you can end up filling the tooth very quickly. Luckily I've been doing it long enough now, like I kind of have some concept of what I want it to look like and to achieve, and so I can now take those risks. When you're starting, it's a good idea to try and have some control of how hard you're pressing, because if you do go really crazy with it, you're going to find you're going to have some issues. Right. So whenever I paint a blue sky, that is, hot country, I will generally add a bit of variation. So yeah, maybe a flat blue. But for me, I like to mix it up a bit. It's fine. Certainly these kind of colours, if you add some violet, like a violet or blue violet in, it can help. But then don't forget to incorporate some in other areas. You get light coming through trees and moving around, doing strange things, and you can play with that idea. As I said, with these trees, they have like an edge to them, which is it's like almost like rimlet. Have this lovely lightness around them, and it's not mauve, but tonally it can be right. If you get the tone right, everything else kind of works. But you need to get the tone right, and it allows you to incorporate other colours into the painting. And we're making it bright. I'm making a bright statement painting here. I'm not looking at. So I'm incorporating colours that you're not seeing, certainly in my reference, but then I'm not painting the photograph. I'm not copying it. I'm using it as a starting point. Very often when I use photographic reference, which I do, I'm quite happy to say, I like to draw from life, but inevitably time demands to produce paintings mean that I will use other means, and photos are the easiest way. But what I often try and do is, when I'm taking the photos, either on the phone or camera, I will take a lighter version and a very dark version, because the camera will average things out, make decisions that as an artist you don't want to make, and you kind of lose some of the detail in the shadows and some of the detail in the highlights. So if you hedge your bets, photograph for both, then you can go back in and you can. So it's just starting to work, and there's some subtle details in the background, signs of arable, a lot of very rich country for growing vegetables and fruit and everything, and there's starting to put in some of the details. But hint, always hint. Don't be, in my style of painting, I'm not looking to capture exactly. What I'm looking for is an estimation in there, a hint of what it is. It makes it interesting, I think, as a viewer of paintings. If everything isn't done, if you think, what's going on there? That's what, you look at it and think, ooh, and then you have to double look at it. I find that satisfying as an artist. I couldn't quite see it there. It just comes together. So we've got these kind of. I tend to keep the foreground fairly loose, fairly abstract, because it will help to lead you into the picture, which I like the abstract elements of a painting, because you combine them, they add to the other elements which are more specific, sort of where you actually, yeah, that's got to be done. That it's got to won't look like it if you don't have some accuracy. But you can play with other areas such as foregrounds where you can be quite loose with your application of pastel and quite abstract and non-specific. Now pastels are not just, they're a drawing, for me they're a drawing tool as well as a painting tool. They have edges, you can roll them, so a nice way of doing the details is you can just roll the ends, roll it rather than drag it. If you drag it, then obviously that edge just gets fatter and fatter, but if you roll it, it just will remain more constant as a more consistently fine tool for when you want those marks which are not quite so specific. So we're getting a feel now. There's a bit of a sense of light working, but we do need to work on it. So we've got to strengthen our darks through here. So I like it to be a bit dark around there. And a few darks through here. The shapes, the big darker shapes will be bigger towards the foreground, and they get smaller as you go back. Contrast is certainly in Mediterranean scenes, I think the sense of contrast helps a lot if you can emphasize that contrast and make it a feature. It will help to make stronger paintings. There are abstract elements, as I said, of this painting. I'm not looking to render everything. I'm looking to do enough to convey the message of what, this is what I saw. I liked this. Now, as you kind of come towards the foreground, keep your shapes bigger and try and make them a little more dramatic. Distant scenes, there's nothing too. This kind of line here is where anything really dark stops happening. Behind there, if you start using this kind of depth darkness in that far distance, it's going to jump forward and kind of ruin the effect which we're trying to give that continuous for. But that's about the limit of where I want to go with that. I don't really want to take that any higher. And obviously this is a dark blue. It isn't a green. Tonally it's right, and it makes for a fairly exciting dark. Whereas just a plain dark green it's okay, but it's not going to excite me that much. So I'm going to start to add some smaller marks in, but enough smaller marks. I tend to leave the small marks till nearer the end, and because you want to go big marks, medium marks, small marks, and in my eyes, just enough small marks to say what I want to say. Once I've kind of, that works as that suggests that, that's enough. I'll stop. As you can see, we're just moving the pastel around, making some random searching marks. When you're plein air painting, you're constantly searching for marks to put down, ways to say things. When you're working in the studio, you could work it out to great detail, and then just work to a real plan. But I like to try and maintain some of that spontaneity that happens in the field. I like that. I find it that kind of quick decision making that you make plein air painting, I like to try and bring into the studio, and it makes a big difference to how you paint. My paintings have loosened up massively, which is what I wanted. It's a deliberate move to loosen up, become a little slightly more abstract without becoming an abstract painter. To do that, this one other thing plein air will give you. It will give you that chance to discover a different way of working, and still mixing the colours through. This one just about on the edge here. Push that through there. We've got a bit of suggestion of something going on. Cloud fields or lines of stuff growing. And what I want to look at now is that background a bit. And then I need to do a little bit of work on that. I'm going to bring in a bit of a different. I'll get a bit more detail in there, so that's a bit lighter than I wanted. So start to just thinking a bit at the moment. This is a stage where you're looking at the painting and thinking, what do I need to do? Which bit isn't working? Which bit am I happy with? And where do I need to head to make it do what I want it to do? And there's certain pastels that I will use to achieve some of these effects. So, using a slightly harder, and one of the pastels I do like to use, it's a brand which offers a bit more control than some of the softer brands, but just putting in those little details, which is kind of what I'm after. It's like a silvery effect that you get on the edge of these, which is kind of I can get by just moving the pastel around. And the tooth is filling quite quickly at this stage on the paper, so you need to make the right decisions at this stage, get them as spot on as you can. I think when you start a painting, you have total freedom to go as crazy as you want. It's a wonderful period of the process. But once you've been on it and working on it for a while, and you've started to make some good decisions and some nice marks that you like and want to maintain, then you have to think a little bit more clearly about what you're doing. You've committed a certain amount of time and a certain amount of energy into a painting, and you then have to start to make sensible decisions to protect a little bit of the work that you've done. I'm going in with like a turquoisey, kind of slightly turquoisey, and it just gives a bit of depth. And in the background here, it's going to pull back quite nicely. So as you can see, it just doesn't come forward too much. And you can use some big splashes of colour here and there, just to make things work. Now there's an area here which is just a little bit lacking. I think it needs something. So I've kind of gone in this way to start to define a few areas which are just a bit too vague. You know, I like vague, but I also like the painting to have it's got to read correctly. And so as I add more colours, I'm thinking a little bit more carefully about where I'm putting them. So I'm working quite vigorously with the pastel at this stage, so there is limited time. And one of the ways I will know the painting's finished is I've filled the tooth. So once it's filled, it's done to the best of my ability, and I'd either be totally happy or have another go. But yeah, I'm getting a feel there's quite a nice richness But now I want to start to flick the path in a bit more strongly. There's some nice little highlights through here which I want to play with. Kind of intensifying the tone a little bit, or the colour more than the tone, so that it just has a bit more strength. Keep working vigorously, move the pastel with, and try and move it with some intent. I think that one of the ways you can do it is to try and draw from, or work from the shoulder. Try not to just draw from the wrist. Try and make your movements as big as possible so that your marks stay as big as possible. And he's putting in these little signs of stuff happening. They're not little negative spaces. And I enjoy doing them. I think it's fun to find these little extras at the end which help to bring it together. There's a great, yeah. You can just do little marks like that little mark there. It's instantly pulled the tree forward, lit the land behind. It's just, those little discoveries can happen at any point in the painting. It is an exciting medium pastel. It allows you to work fast, furious, gentle, careful, abstract, whatever you're looking to do, this medium can do it for you. But you have to try, I think you need to try all versions and all aspects to find your own voice with it. Because it isn't, it's not, like all decent mediums, it's not easy. It takes time. And it takes, so here we've got like a rocky edge. So obviously the bigger rocks are, you get, as you get close to you, the rocks get bigger, so the marks get bigger. But it just simplified, and then as you get near the end, it's just little marks that just cut in. And it's kind of, it's an exciting way of working. Pastels are, I think I tried lots of mediums. I wanted to paint, landscapes, and I tried all the mediums, but pastel really is the one that offers you options to try so many styles of painting with one medium. It's just so versatile. I think that's why I kind of really use anything else now, kind of stop with it. And I found it does what I want almost every time. We all have bad days, off days. None of us are perfect. But what we will find is that with pastel, certain things are possible because it's pastel. You know, now I need to lighten the sky a little bit. It needs totally to brighten up just a bit. I don't want to just put a flat tone. As I said earlier, I'm mixing up the colours a bit, trying to do trying to create a sense of unity in the painting. I like colour. I like to use colour brightly and boldly, but you have to have a little respect for it, and it's something that I think picking colour and colour palettes for doing paintings is something that you just pick up as you go. It's very much an intuitive thing. It's probably the hardest thing to teach, is how to pick and use colour, because quite often it's done on a feeling. You just feel that the right one to do, or the right one to go with, and it's very hard to articulate that to people, I think. The best way of doing it is to play with colour, but just be aware of using a mixture of colours that, using your neutrals to strengthen your superstars. So your supporting actors to make your superstars look good. That's what neutrals are for. There's quite a lot of neutrals in there, some neutral mauves, purples, certainly in the sky there's some neutrals. And I think as you the more you do it, the stronger the painting, the stronger your sense of colour use will become. And it's very much a journey to find your own vocabulary of colour. Arguably, we're always learning, and we're always developing, and I'm always trying new combinations and thinking, I like that, I don't like this, and it's again picking out with a few neutrals just to strengthen up a few bits. And as you can see, we've kind of developed a big subject matter. What I would normally do is my way of working. Just going to put on a few more strokes at this stage, and then I would invariably leave the painting for a couple of days, come back to it, just make a few little adjustments if I felt they were needed. You don't always need it, but sometimes you just look at something intensely. Certainly here we've been looking very intensely because we're doing this together, and it's a constant process. We're not stepping back from it as such. All I want to impart to you really is experiment, have fun. Don't put down marks, play with colour, play with tone, play with composition, enjoy it. If you enjoy it, it will show in your paintings. And try lots of different ways. You don't always end up painting in the way you thought you would. I mean, I was always interested in certain ways of painting, certain styles of painters, and I still like a lot of those painters now. And I don't necessarily paint in that way. You paint, you find your own voice, your own way of doing things, and that tends to be, it's a natural process. If you're looking for a style, you won't find one. If you're looking to paint and to keep painting and to keep learning, it will just come. You'll just find a style. So I'm going to call that done at this stage, I think. Hopefully I've imparted some of my ideas for painting, and hopefully you've enjoyed it. It's been a great pleasure to spend some time with you, and I hope you enjoy Pastel Live.
Wow, that was impressive. We were chatting over here. When I picked these paintings, yes, I picked it off the painting. I didn't realize they were both left-handed. They were both international, but they were also both ends of the spectrum. That didn't even occur to me when I picked the painting. I was just like, oh, that's pretty. I want to try that. That one's, oh, that's nice. I want to try that one. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Those were some great videos, just a nice sampling of what you get at Pastel Live. If you painted along, or if you do paint along with these videos, please share those on social and tag us. We've got Pastel Today and also Pastel Party. So share those on social. I want to see them. I'm going to try to get to one this afternoon if I can. But definitely share this if you want to see them. And then we also mentioned in the chat that we're in, Art School Live on YouTube. Eric does a weekly or a daily show 5 days a week. We always have artists on there of, any medium. He also is now doing Monday marketing and Friday feedback where he critiques stuff. So I really encourage that. It's all free. It's all on YouTube. It's really awesome. And I actually am taking over this next week. Eric's going to be gone, so I'm going to be hosting Art School Live for a few days. And Monday we have Jeffrey Olson with Royal Talons. He's going to be on talking about all things pastel. So come check us out. I hope to see you guys there. Before we go, I do want to mention again that the offer for you guys for coming today for Pastel Live is it expires Sunday at midnight. So sign up before Sunday to get that offer. And then if you do want to get the bonuses, you do have to sign up within the hour of this webinar ending. So we'll be ending here in about 5-10 minutes. So an hour from now, sign up so you can get those bonus videos. So thank you so much for spending your Saturday with me. I really appreciate it. I have 2 more videos I want to give away today. So I'm going to pull those out. The first one is Nancy King Mertz. Excuse me. This is her urban pastel painting. She does a great job. I love her. I wish I could paint like her. There's just so many details in such a small space. It's so cool. And this video is going to go to... let's see here. Tom Eustace. Tom, this video is yours. Nancy King Mertz, this goes to you. Sorry, I just need to make a note of that. This is for Tom Eustace. Tom, make sure you type "I'm here" in the chat and send me an email if at winner@streamlinepublishing.com so I can get you access to your video. And the next one I want to give away is Vera Kavura. I mentioned her earlier. She uses pan pastels as the basis for her floral paintings. They are stunning. So this is a really awesome video. And congratulations to Todd Gardner. Todd Gardner, you are the proud owner of Vera Kavura's painting. Congratulations. And remember to send me an email. And again, thank you guys so much. I know this was a lot of information. It was really fun. I had so much fun watching these with you, and just being in the chat with you guys was so much fun. So I encourage you guys to show up to Art School Live, come to Pastel Live if you can, and I look forward to seeing all of you guys. I hope you have a wonderful pastel-filled day. We'll see you guys later.